AI coding tools are, let's be honest, ridiculously powerful. There's no doubt about that. But what if the entire industry is built on a business model that's just, well, broken? Today, we're diving into a really critical issue that might be creating a bubble just waiting to pop. Okay, let's just jump right in with this. This quote from developer Riley Brown absolutely nails the paradox we're talking about. The tools are incredible, like they feel like magic, but that magic comes with this massive hidden price tag. And that's creating a huge, huge problem. And this leads us to what people are starting to call the coder's paradox. It's this fundamental conflict that's threatening the very survival of some of your favorite AI coding startups. Now, we're not just talking about hypotheticals here. Recent reports have started to pull back the curtain on some of the hottest, fastest-growing companies in the space. And it's not looking good. Take Replit. Their gross margins took an absolute nosedive, going from a healthy 36% to negative 4% in just 2 months. Think about that. And they're not alone. Investor Chris Pike and commentator Swix actually gave this phenomenon a name, the Claude Code Problem. And it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. It's the massive gap between the flat, predictable fee you pay every month and the wildly variable, often huge, cost the company has to eat every time you use the tool, especially if you're a power user. And this highlights a critical distinction that every one of these companies is grappling with. See, getting product market fit, that's where users just love your product and can't stop using it, that's only half the battle. You also have to find business model product fit. In other words, can you actually make money from those people who love your product? Or are your best customers secretly bankrupting you? This kind of financial pressure forces these companies into what you could call a subsidy trap. And if this whole story is starting to sound a little familiar, well, it should. We've definitely seen this movie before. Yeah, this whole model of using piles of venture capital money to cover the real costs, it feels an awful lot like the playbook from the last tech cycle, doesn't it? Remember MoviePass? Or when Uber rides were dirt cheap? That wasn't real. That was VC money subsidizing your movie tickets and your taxi rides, all to pump up those user numbers. And it's the exact same thing happening now with AI compute costs. And this gets to the absolute heart of the issue. Chris Pike puts it perfectly here. The second you slap the word unlimited on a business with variable costs, you have to ask a tough question. Do your customers really love your product, or do they just love that you're giving them a fantastic, subsidized deal? And this kind of model leads to a predictable and kind of scary death spiral. First, your most profitable customers, the ones who pay you but barely use the service, they're the first to leave. So then you're left with the power users, the ones who are actually costing you more than their subscription is worth. And all the while, you can keep signing up new people, which hides the fact that your core business economics are rotting from the inside out. But here's the twist. This is where the comparison to something like MoviePass starts to break down. Because there are a couple of things happening in the AI world that make this problem completely new and way more complicated. Okay, so first, the good news, and it's really good news. Unlike a movie ticket or a car ride, which have pretty fixed costs, the underlying cost of the technology itself, the AI inference, is getting cheaper at a mind-blowing rate that nobody really saw coming. But, and this is a huge but, here's the bad news. Our appetite for this stuff as developers and creators seems to be basically infinite. So even as the cost per use is dropping, the amount we're using it is exploding even faster. Any savings are just getting wiped out by more and more usage. And that leads to the second really unique factor here. When it comes to AI models, users have made their priorities crystal clear. We want performance. Period. We will almost always choose the newest, the most powerful, and the most expensive models to get our work done. Price is a distant second concern. So if the classic all-you-can-eat subscription model is basically a ticking time bomb, what's the alternative? Well, that's the multi-billion-dollar question the entire industry is scrambling to answer right now. This has kicked off a wave of pretty wild pricing experiments. Replit, for example, flipped their model around. And for some users, that meant the price of tasks they did every day jumped 4 to 5 times, literally overnight. Talk about sticker shock. Right now, we're seeing a few main approaches start to emerge from the chaos. You've got Replit's effort-based model, you have the bring-your-own-key system from companies like Clen, and then you've got this truly radical new idea from a company called SoftGen. And this whole frantic search for a business model that actually works, it's leading to a final, really mind-bending question. What even is AI? And have we been thinking about how to sell it all wrong from the very beginning? The team behind that company, SoftGen, they believe we're entering a totally new era, one where software can literally build itself in minutes. And in a world like that, all the old rules for how you sell software, subscriptions, high markups, locking customers in, they just don't apply anymore. Their thesis is basically to treat AI like a utility, using a Costco-style model. The idea is you pay a small annual membership, and in return, you get access to AI at pretty much wholesale prices, with just a tiny, transparent fee on top. They are betting that as the software itself becomes a commodity, the only thing that's going to matter is trust and customer loyalty. Which leaves us with this massive, final question. Maybe the entire Claude Code problem comes down to one simple, fundamental mistake. We're all trying to price AI like it's a luxury software product, when it's rapidly becoming something as essential and as widespread as electricity.